Okay, how are we doing tonight? Might as well ask, right? While we're at it. Audio's still fine? No, no, no. How are you doing? You're goaded? Okay, we knew that, but what's new? Before we embark on our adventure or endeavors. Also, Twitch chat, sorry, but you're getting ignored until I fix the API. Doing alright? Synthetic, are you someone who is from where are you from? Worms. Wait, oh, you're on both worm? How did you make it there? Okay, silly. Did I give you mod privileges? Oh, remind me to do that in a bit, but I'm going to have some of my tea now with this huge spoon sticking out. You low-key followed the wind type. That's funny. Not on Twitch? Wait, now I'm confused. Oh, you know me through Greg. Interesting. You mod on YouTube. You love Greg? I feel like most people at this in the general CCCRU universe tend to have that opinion. Okay guys. So with that, I don't know who else is in the stream that's actually yapping that I can see because I can't see what's going on with Twitch. That remains a known unknown for me. Actually, maybe it remains a known. Oh, okay. I can message here. But okay. With that, I'll keep this up for me. And also this up. Wait, can I pop chat out here? Because that would be really smart. I can. Ooh, awesome, awesome. Okay. We're doing so many things at once. We're getting really crazy about this. But yes, that is the correct thing to have on screen. Yes. This is also the correct thing to have on screen. No, it's not. Uh-oh. We've goofed. Truly, we've goofed. Oh no, we're back. We're so back. Okay. Well, we're partially back. I have chat. Okay, I have both chats on. There is, yeah, no. So I have it on both. It's just actually managing all the pages on one is absolute hell. Done goofed up, yeah. Okay. So, now that we're here, I guess let's get started. I don't know if you guys want me to read essentially the back, but it says level 1 or world space is an anthropomorphologically scaled is an anthropomorphically logically scaled, predominantly vision configured, massively multi-slotted reality system that is obsolescing very rapidly. Garbage time is running out. Can what is playing you make it to level 2? And then there's a slight little forward. Fanged Noumena assembles the first Fanged Noumena assembles for the first time the writings of Nick Land, variously described as rabid nihilism, mad black delusionism, accelerationism, and cyber gothic, wielding weaponized, mechanically recombined versions of Deleuze and Guattari, Reich, and Freud. in the company of fellow werewolves such as Nietzsche, Bataille, Tard, Trackles, Stiorin, and a cut up soundtrack of Blade Runner, Terminator, and Apocalypse Now. Land plotted a rigorous schizophrenic escape route of academic philosophy and declared all out war on the human security system. Despite his disappearance, oh, what's going on in chat? Despite his disappearance, Land's output has been a crucial underground influence both on recent speculative realist thought and artists, writers, musicians, and filmmakers, invigorated by his uncompromising and abrasive philosophical vision. Long the subject of rumor and vague legend, Land's turbulent post-genre theory fictions of cyber-capitalist meltdown smears cyberpunk philosophy, arithmetic, poetics, cryptography, anthropology, grammatology, and the occult into unrecognizable and gripping hybrids. This is just name dropping everything all at once, okay. Beginning with Land's radical rereadings of Heidegger, Nietzsche, and Kant, Fanged Noumena terminates in Professor Barker's cosmic theory of geotrauma and neo-Kabbalistic attempts to formulate a numerical anti-language. Fanged Noumena is a dizzying trip through Land's rigorous, incisive, and provocative work, establishing it as an indispensable resource for radically inhuman thought in the 21st century. Ooh, I like the little sunflower. Thank you for adding the sunflower. So, Fanged Noumena, collected writings 1987 through 2007, edited by Robin McKay and Ray Brassiere. By Nick Land. So we'll skip past the list of sources and editors introduction, unless, I don't know, chat. Are you gonna do introduction? Ooh, we're getting really spicy with the, entire part of the book that is just, algorithmic cooking lobsters with Jake and Dinos. How much did it cost? It's borrowed. I also am in the CCCRU, not to be confused with its predecessor. And also, we say predecessor loosely here because we were not sanctioned. So take that with a grain of salt. I guess that is the nature of hyperstitions, isn't it? Um, so editor's introduction, yes or no, chat? How much am I lagging behind? That's the real question. Yeah, why not? Okay, let's do it. Editor's introduction. Nick Land's writings inhabit a disordered architecture, a space traversed by rat and wolf vectors, conjuring a schizophrenic metaphysics. Advanced technologies invoke ancient entities. The human voice disintegrates into the howl of cosmic trauma. Civilization hurtles towards an artificial death. Sinister sinister musical subcultures are allied with morbid cults. Rogue AIs are pursued into the labyrinthian crypts by Turing cops, and Europe mushrooms into a paranoia laboratory in a global cyber-positive circuit that reaches infinite density in the year 2012. Missed it by a little bit, buddy. How many pages is it? I don't know. You tell me. No, it's a well, a good portion of it seems to be either poetry. We're already reaching the 600s towards the end, but a lot of it seems to be like just random writings and graphics and such. So, if we were going to give it a total page count, not including the index of subjects, it looks like we're at 645 pages. Is this fiction or prediction? That is for you to decide, dear synthetic. For you to decide. So, that reaches infinite density in the year 2012, flipping modernity over into whatever it has been piloting it whatever has been piloting it from the far side of the approaching singularity. Land's writings full genre in on itself, splicing disparate sources from philosophy, literature, science, occult, and pulp fiction. Immanuel Kant, William Gibson, Deleuze Guattari, Norbert Weiner. I can keep going on these names. There's some pop culture references. H.P. Lovecraft. No, really? The result is a dense, frequently bewildering vortex of hallucinatory injunctions, superposing multiple pseudonyms, cryptic dates, and experimental coding systems. Cathel, Axis, Unlife, A Death, K Space, Sarkon, Kurtz, The Cthulhu Club, Humpa Tadum, 4077, 1501, 1757, 1949, 1981, Tick Systems, Primitive Numerization, Angnostic Kabbalah, Psychosis, metaphysics dissolves into psychotic cosmology. The historic life on Earth, from bacteria to Microsoft, is the history of suppression. Nameless, the suppressed seethes from beneath life's organized surfaces, locked up in cells, societies, selves, micro and macropods, yet breaking out spasmodically to propel terrestrial history through a series of intensive thresholds which have been converging towards meltdown. Sole agent of revolution, the Antichrist is not one but many, a swarm of masked infiltrators from the future, poised to eat your TV, infect your bank account, and hack mitochondria from your DNA. Hooking up desublimated arrows to synthetic Thanatos in order to accelerate the obsolescence of humankind. What has all of this to do with philosophy? From a certain point of view, one encouraged by Land himself, nothing, or as little as possible. Land allied himself to a line of renegade thinkers, Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, Bataille, who mocked and disparaged academicism and wielded philosophy as an implement for exacerbating enigma, disrupting orthodoxy and transforming existence. Land is probably the most controversial figure to have emerged from the fusty culture of Anglophone philosophy during the past 2 decades. Despite, or perhaps because of this controversy, the text collected in this volume have languished in near obscurity until now. Between 1992, the year of publication of his only book, and 1998, when he reassigned his lectureship in philosophy at the University of Warwick, and abandoned academia, Land accrued a notoriety remarkable in a milieu of otherwise typified by stimulifying decorum. A divisive, polarizing figure, he provoked both adulation and execration. I cannot speak. Lemonist. Yeah. How are we doing, chat? Feel free to add, I don't know. Add, lemons in the chat. Lemon emojis in the chat if you're still here. Because I need a break to drink an egg. Also, add eggs, because Lemon said so. Lemon emojis, egg emojis. Where do they go? Oop, I see one. I want to see how we're still doing on, how are we doing on audio? Lemon, you too, you have to post an emoji. Okay, awesome. I see the emojis now. Let's go. So. Oh, no, we're getting all the emojis. Okay, let's go. His jabs at the holy trinity of continental philosophy, phenomenology, deconstruction, and critical theory drew enmity from his more orthodox peers, while his virulent anti-humanism affronted philanthropic conservatives. His swipes at institutionalized critique earned him the opprobrium of the academic left. Marxists in particular were outraged by Land's aggressive championing of the sociopathic heresy, urging the ever more inhibited marketization of the processes rather than critique of capitalism's disintegration of society. And Land's contempt for orthodoxy was no disingenuous pose struck with whilst ruthlessly pursuing advancement. With complete with a complete absence of academic ambition, he willingly paid the price for his provocations, both personally and professionally. It's a lot of alliteration. Once Land retired, academic quickly and quietly scaled quickly and quietly scaled the sealed breach inflicted in its side by his ferocious but short-lived assault, so that within the first few years of the new century he had become an apocryphal character, more or less forgotten in the philosophical circles. Yet Land's writings continued to reverberate outside of academia, particularly among artists and writers who welcomed his vivid reanimation of philosophy, as well as polemical medium, relished his disregard for the proprieties of sober reflection, and were inspired by his attempt to plunge theory directly into the maelstrom of capitalist modernity. Nevertheless, given this heteroclite status, it is hardly surprising that many would still rather dismiss Land as an unsavory aberration deserving of oblivion. So why republish these texts by a writer whom some would prefer to forget? One would cite the need to expose them to a wider readership than they were afforded at the time, and to provide a more representative profile of Land's intellectual trajectory than that suggested by a single monograph he published during his brief career. And that is referenced as Thirst for Annihilation, George Bataille and Virulent Nihilism. Um, However more obvious, albeit cursory, rejoinder to anyone tempted to dismiss Land and the unalloyed brilliance on display in the writings collected here. These extraordinary texts, superheated compounds of severe abstraction and scabrous wit, testify to a uniquely penetrating intelligence, fusing transcendental philosophy, number theory, geophysics, biology, cryptography, and occultism into startlingly coherent but increasingly delirious theory fictions. Fueled by disgust at the more stupefying inanities of academic orthodoxy, and looking to expectorate the vestigial theological superstitions afflicting mainstream post-Kantianism, Land seized upon Deleuze-Guattari's transcendental materialism years before its predictable institutional neutering, and subjected it to ruthless cybernetic streamlining, excising all vestiges of Bergsonian vitalism to reveal a deviant and explicitly. Stop coining words! Oh my god! Thenotropic mechanism. The results of this reconstructive surgery provide the most illuminating but perhaps the most disturbing distillation of what Deleuze called transcendental empiricism. In Land's work, this becomes the watchword for an experimental praxis oriented entirely towards contact with the unknown. Land sought out this exteriority, the impersonal and anonymous chaos of absolute time, as fervently as he believed Kantianism and Hegelianism, along with their contemporary heirs, deconstruction and critical theory, were striving to keep out. What is particularly remarkable is this rigorous consistency with which Land developed the conceptual innovations of Deleuze and Guattari as the transdisciplinary innovations they are, rather than recontextualizing them (parentheses) as is unfortunately now all too common within the restricted histories of philosophy, psychoanalysis, or cultural theory. He deployed them in an exacting engagement with the core problematics of modernity, the dialectic of enlightenment, the humiliations of man, technology's procedural automation of the concept. George Tawney is correct in saying that Land is active and out there, and in our circles, maybe, perhaps, perchance. Well, I mean, I'm not. I say perchance, but not really. Alrighty. So, I don't know. The editor's introduction goes on for quite a bit longer. We can keep reading it, or we can skip ahead to the actual text. What are we thinking? Although it seems as though this does have a good reason for it existing. I'll say that. I will say I'm not even through the entire editor's introduction. It's 54 pages long. The editor's introduction is 54 pages long. What are we thinking, chat? Do we continue with tutorial mode, or do we dive straight into level 1? Hmm. Skip it? Okay. Here. We can see you can see what I've been reading here. It's going to get very annoying to process. See, we're still in the editor's introduction. I'm the skipper. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll go back and read it at the start of another stream. But I think this is maybe not the most relevant part of the text. I think this is a good primer for those who are uninitiated, but not necessary. Should I read the rest in my fake British accent? Wait, that's Heike goaded. The background is the pages. Thank you. I took a lot of time to set that up, but you can't even fully see it because this is a really interesting title. Kant, Capital, and the Prohibition of Incest. A polemical introduction to the configuration of philosophy and modernity. Start with a quote by Immanuel Kant. But intuition and the concept differentiate themselves from each other specifically because they do not intermix with each other. Immanuel Kant. Significantly, incest proper and its metaphorical form as the violation of a minor, parentheses, by someone old enough to be her father, as the expression goes, end parentheses, even combines in some countries with its direct opposite, interracial sexual relations, an extreme form of exogamy, and the two most powerful inducements of horror and collective vengeance. Claude Lévi-Strauss. Bird that goes wee-foo, yep, so real, so true. And then we lead into another quote by Friedrich Nietzsche. To keep this sort of interesting for me to read, I'm going to switch in between accents. No, we do not love humanity, but on the other hand, we are not nearly. Oh, I should have done German. I can't do a German accent, can I? No, we do not love humanity. No, I can't. No. No, we do not love humanity, but on the other hand, we are not nearly German enough. In a sense in which the word German is constantly being used nowadays, to advocate nationalism and race hatred, and to be able to take pleasure in the nation's scabies of the hot and blood poisoning that now leads the nations of Europe to delimit and barricade themselves against each other, as if it were a matter of quarantine. And we have our three first quotes. Now with land. For the purposes of understanding the complex network of race, gender, and class oppressions that constitute our global modernity, it is very rewarding to attend to the evolution of the apartheid policies of the South African regime, since apartheid is directed towards the construction of a microcosm of the neo-colonial order, a recapitulation of the world in miniature. The most basic aspirations of the Boer state is the dissociation of politics from economic relations, so that by means of Bantu Bantustans or homelands of the black African population can be suspended in a condition of simultaneous political distance and economic proximity vis-a-vis the white metropolis. This policy seeks to recast the currently existing political exteriority of the black population in relation to the society that it utilizes its labor into a system of geographical relations remodeled on national sovereignty. The direct disenfranchisement of the subject peoples would then be re-expressed within the dominant international code of ethno-geographical (national) autonomy. World opinion discriminates between the relation South African whites have to the blacks they employ, and the relation North African whites, for instance, have to the third world labor force they employ, directly or indirectly, because it acknowledges an indissoluble claim upon the entire South African landmass by population sharing an internationally recognized national identity. My contention in this paper is that the third world as a whole is the product of a successful, although it piecemeal and largely unconscious, Bantustan policy on the part of the global capital K capital metropolis. Any attempt by political forces in the third world to resolve the problems of their wait, am I on the correct page? There we go. Accents twin. Let's go. Um Any attempt by political forces in the third world to resolve the problems of their neocolonial integration into the world trading system on the basis of national sovereignty is as naive as it would be the attempt of black South Africans if they opted for a Bantustan solution to their particular political economic dilemma. The displacement of the political consequences of wage labor relations away from the metropolis is not an incidental feature of capital accumulation, as the economic purists aligned to both the bourgeoisie and the workerist left assert. It is rather the fundamental condition of capital as nothing other than an explicit aggression against the masses. Despite inadequacies in the Marxist grasp of the nation, in Despite inadequacies in Marx's grasp of the nation state and its colonial and neocolonial functioning, his account of the so-called primitive accumulation clearly demonstrates that the origin of wage-labor relations is not itself economic, but lies in an overt war against people, or their forced removal from previous conditions of subsistence. Are we on the correct page? Yes. It is the outward shockwave of this violent process of coercion whereby the subsistence, I can say this word, I swear, subsistence producer is driven into the marketplace that determines the character of the imperialist project and its offspring. Capital has always sought to distance itself in reality, i.e., geographically, from this brutal political infrastructure. After all, the ideal bourgeois politics is the absence of politics, since capital is nothing other than the inconsistent displacement of social decision making into the marketplace. But this ideal of total depoliticization, there we go, or the absolute annihilation of resistance to market relations, is an impossible megalomaniac fantasy, and Marx's contention that labor trading and its natural price in an undistorted market (equal to the cost of its reproduction) will tend strongly to express an equally natural political refusal of the market, continues to haunt the global bourgeoisie. Got a bot on Twitch. Oh, what's going on Twitch? Hmm. Hmm. Worm, do you want to be a mod on Twitch as well. Mm. Oh god, I don't know how to do this anymore. Yep, you're mod. Welcome. Thank you. Okay. Oh no, now I have to set everything back up. It's okay. We've done this so many times at this point that it's actually not that difficult anymore. Or is it? Hmm. Oh, nope. Okay. Chat just stays there. How are we doing on okay, so we can switch pages here. The only practical option available to the rulers of capitalist societies has lain in the global disaggregation of the political system, accompanied by a regional distortion of the world labor trading system in favor of the working class, to the metropolitan regions (parentheses welfare capitalism). That has a name. This is why deep complicity has continued to exist between the form of the nation state as an international political agent and an economic order based upon the commodification of labor. Since it is of systematic necessity that the economic conditions of an undistorted labor market are accompanied by political crises, the order functions as an integrated process based upon the flow of market price labor into the metropolis from the third world, parentheses, on the basis of economic form of capital production, end parentheses, and the export of political instability to the third world from the metropolis, parentheses, on the basis of the political form of autonomous national sovereignty, end parentheses. The global labor market is easily interpreted, therefore, as a sustained demographic disaster that is systematically displaced away from the political institutions of the metropolis. This process of displacement, which is the ultimate base or infrastructure of capital accumulation, is dependent upon these issues of kinship or marriage organization, parentheses, the sexual economy of gender and race, which Marxists, end parentheses, which Marxists have often tended to consider as a surface feature of an underlying mode of production. Chat, how are we doing? Feel free to comment on this, by the way. I would prefer to see more going on in chat because it makes me feel as though I'm not reading this to the void, even though I can see concurrent viewers. In this paper, hi! In this paper, I shall argue with the philosophy of Immanuel Kant, Western cultural history culminates in a self-reflecting bourgeois civilization because his thought of synthesis, parentheses, or relation to alterity, and also the strangulation, there you go, and also the strangulation of this thought within his system captures modernity as a problem. But the modernity thus symptomized by its philosophical exposition is not primarily the penultimate phase of a dialectic society of production. It is rather the necessity that history itself, expansionary social and economic development, or synthesis, compromises with a profound continuity whose basic aspects are on the one hand patrilineal descent, and on the other a formal logic of identity that was already concluded in its essentials by Aristotle. These two aspects, the genealogical and the logical, are functions of a position of abstract masculine subjectivity coincident with the patronymic. This position of the proto-cultural fundament of everything that is able to count as the same. The tradition is thus rooted in a communication between culture and population, whose medium is the stability (parentheses) identity of the male line. Modernity is not merely a compromise between novel forms of commercially driven social organization and this archaic cultural pattern of patrilineal exogamy, but more fundamental. Hello. But more fundamentally, a deepening of the compromise between integral and to any exogamy that is able to remain patrilineal. It is only by understanding the inhibitive functions of patriarchies in relation to exogamic dissipation (parentheses) and inhibition that is supremely logical in that it conserves identity, and which is for this reason violently xenophobic, and parentheses, that we can make sense of capital production and its tendency towards the particular cultural mutation that was baptized by Mussolini as fascism. This is because the restriction of cultural synthesis based upon a strenuous endogamy at the level of the national community is the ultimate outcome of the concerted liberalization of kinship organizations within parentheses metropolitan industrial societies. A capitalist trading empire is a developed form of exogamic patriarchy, and it inherits its tensions. Domination of the other is inhibited in principle by developing into full absorption, because it is the residual alterity of the other that conditions the generations of surplus. The parallel difference between a labor market and a slave market is based on the fact that one cannot do business with a slave (parentheses) only with a slave owner. See, I can't. This is not one that I should be reading in a British accent. Or maybe I should, honestly. You know, he's Warwick. Tropicalstuck, true. Maybe I should be reading this in a British accent. Maybe it'll be more true to form. Based on the fact that one cannot do business with a slave, parentheses, only with a slave owner, end parentheses, and similarly, one cannot base a kinship system upon a harem. The prevalence of slave labor within the Hitlerite New Order in Eastern Europe is thus a clear indication that the Nazi conquests were in an important sense post-imperialist, in contrast to the fascist mixed economy of slavery and extermination. Colonial wage labor exploitation, even to the point of murder through impoverishment, leaves open the possibility of radical destabilization of the metropolis. But what is crucial to the demarcation of colonial and neo-colonial system is a transnational. What page are we on? No, still there. Okay. Transnational diffusion of ethnicity. As soon as a metropolitan society disengages its organization of kinship and citizenship from its international economic syntheses, it already reveals proto-fascist traits, and on this basis it is easy to see the radical aspect to the colonial project. Excuse me. The radical aspect to the colonial project, the explosion of national identity, the dissipation of metropolitan transcendence. It was strangled at birth within Western society with the emergence of Judeo-Christian race theories. The disaster of world history is that capitalism was never the progressive unwinding of patrilineage through a series of generalized exploitative relations associated with transcultural exog- exogamy. Exogamy. You're good, Lemon. Exogamy, leading to an uncontrollable eruption of the feminine, i.e., migrant, alterity to the fatherland's heart, and thus to the emergence of a radical or ethnically disruptive and post patriarchal synthesis. Instead, kinship and trade were systematically isolated from each other, so that the internationalization of the economy was coupled with an entrenchment of xenophobic nationalistic kinship practices, end parentheses, nationalistic practices, maintaining a concentration of political and economic power within an isolated and geographically sedentary ethnic stock. Thus, when we discuss capital in its historical concreteness, we simultaneously exogamy. Yes, exogamy. Um, Thus, when we discuss capital in its historical concreteness, we are simultaneously discussing a frustration of the cultural tendency towards human societies towards expansive exogamy. Capital is the point at which a culture refuses scroll possibility which it has itself engendered, of pushing the prohibition of incest towards its limit. I want to touch upon this condition of modernity, which can be awkwardly described as patriarchal. How sogged? Truly sogged. Truly sogged with an S. Um, I want to touch upon this condition of modernity, which can be awkwardly described as patriarchal neocolonial capital accumulation, but which I shall come to name inhibited synthesis, not as a historian or a political theorist, but as a philosopher. The philosophical task in relation to modernity is that of delineating and challenging the type of thinking which characterizes it. But what we are to understand is thinking is not at all clear in advance. Indeed, it is the very thought in advance (parentheses) which Kant called the prior. How do you say that in British accent? Priori? Priori? I can't. I've literally been in end thought. Priori. Exogamy. Exogamy. There we go. Okay. Gosh, man, learn how to use a comma. Fuck. Um, can I curse in this? Priori. I had a teacher with a sorry, I had a teacher. I had a professor with a very noticeable accent. So it was priori. He was, I believe, Italian. Some tea? Yeah, I do need some tea, honestly. Let me restart that entire. The sentence takes up most of the page. The philosophical task in relation to modernity is that of delineating and challenging the type of thinking which characterizes it. But that but what we are to understand as thinking is not all clear in advance. Indeed, it is the very thought in advance (parentheses) which Kant called the priori (end parentheses) is itself the predominant trait of our contemporary reason. Western society has departed from the stagnant theocracies of the Middle Ages throughout a series of more or less violent convulsions that have engendered an explosive possibility of novelty on Earth. But these same societies simultaneously shackled a new history by systematically compromising it. This ambiguous movement of enlightenment, which characterizes the emergence of industrial societies, trading commodities, is intellectually stimulated by its own paradoxical nature. Enlightenment society wants both to learn and to legislate for all time, to open itself to the other and to consolidate itself from within, to expand indefinitely whilst reproducing itself as the same. Its ultimate dream is to grow whilst remaining identical to what it was, to touch the other without a vulnerability. With the European Ancien Régime, hey Justin, welcome. Ancien Régime, where was the European Ancien Régime, was parochial and insular. Modernity is appropriate. It lives in a profound but an easy relation to an outside that is both to an outside that both attracts and repels it, a relation that it precariously resolves within itself on the basis of exploitation or interaction from a position of unilateral mastery. You might get hired for some audiobook. Let me know who's hiring. That would be fun. I think they're replacing it with AI now, though, but this is fun. I think it is likely that the volatile mixture of hatred and desire that typifies an exploitative culture bears comparison with the psychology of, cannot say this word on YouTube or Twitch, I believe, but it starts with an R and is 4 letters. Oh, no way! Real Gukanaru, welcome! Hilarious. Yeah, we're doing some reading today. Some very, very tasteful reading. Yeah, I ended with that excerpt. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say that word. The paradox of enlightenment, then, is an attempt to fix a stable relation with what is radically other, since insofar as the other is rigidly positioned within a relation, it is no longer fully other. If before encountering otherness we already know what what its relation to us will be, we've obliterated it in advance. It is this brutal denial, the effective implication of the thought of the priori, since in our certainties come to us without reference to otherness, we have already torn out the tongues of alternity before entering into relation with it. Oh my god, no, I'm not getting banned off of YouTube, stop! Your Zoomer brain, but you can get entertainment off reading a book unless it's an audiobook. No, that makes sense. I think we lose a lot of, here, let me use this point to take a break, because, wow, this is dense. They don't really, he's not one to cut short on the very unuseful coinage of words. Even no, most of these words have not been coined. I would say the person who wrote the editor's introduction, whoever that was, that person was extremely involved in the coinage aspect, because oh my god, was that absolutely horrifying at times to read. No, Robin McKay and Ray Brassiere, you guys need to chill out. Holy fuck. But yeah, what are we thinking so far? Can we parse this? It's quite academically dense. I can tell what he's pointing to, but coinage, yes. To coin new words, new phrases. Quite, oh, let's get some interactions back in chat before YouTube decides that it's not actually that interesting to watch this. I wanna get viewers. Let's do it. How are we doing on a separate platform Twitch? Oh, I have to do posture check? Okay, sorry. I was slouching. Didn't realize. So, okay. Hey Twitch, looks like we're doing pretty good on here. Oh, and who has added me? I don't know. Get more people from Discord in here because I'm actually enjoying this quite a bit. Lemon, traitor. Oh, you're not supposed to see that, even though my background is quite normal. Um, Tell Discord people to talk in here. I don't know. I don't want to be lonely. People's W's in the chat. Yeah, W's in the chat. What happened? Yeah, Lemon, come talk here. Tell people to talk here. I don't care if the chat has nothing to do with what I'm reading. I just want more company because this is dense and it makes me tired. Where did the Sorgi? It's okay, but bring more people here and just talk here. Ah, there you go. Can you do random polls in the chat? I feel like you should be able to. You can do them as a mod, no? Am I crazy? Wait, no, I'm looking for a different page. How many pages do I have open? You're going to Google that right now? Do that, yes. Oh, oh, I know what I did. I popped out Twitch chat. Okay. Yeah, Twitch chat. What's going on? The jellyfish look like lemons? Yeah, they kind of do, don't they? Okay, we can do this. We can do this. Can we do this? I'm not sure. Who's in chat? Chat, please say something. I'm so full of fear. I'm an old British woman clutching my pearls. Mm, yes. Okay, there we go. Hi, chat. I can see chat again. Bring Stop and Eve in here. I want Stop and Eve to hear this, see some opinions because they're really gonna like this. God, they're really gonna love this. I think you should be able to do polls. Here, let's do start a poll. What should the poll be? That's 1/4 of a nightclub. True. Eve is in class. Not sure about Stop. Stop should be free. I think we're in the same time zone. Here, what do we create as a poll? I feel like you should have the option to start a poll as my mod. That is so odd. Okay. Poll. What are we doing here? Um, Oh my god, Bone, hi! Ooh, live chat. Let's go back. Hi, Bone. How are you? I'm good. We're still reading Fanged Noumena, which is Oh my god, Icy, hi! My audio settings are wrong. How are they wrong? What sounds wrong? What's wrong with my audio settings? The right ear is still silent. It is something that I'll figure out later. You were just watching anime with your GF. Oh, that's so cute. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Do you want to listen to some really interesting philosophy that is definitely something that most people would want to listen to? Surely. Mono audio? Yeah. I know. I'm sorry. I'll eventually. Oh my god, Eve! What? Hi, Eve! Ebert! What? I wanted to say something. No, I just wanted to say hi, I guess. Yeah, no, it's more fun with everyone. Oh my god, you guys are all here. Hi! That's so cute. Okay. I feel like, Eve, you're gonna have a lot of opinions on this. I think Stop would have a lot more opinions on, generally what's being read here. Because the start of this chapter is, very cutely called Kant Capital and the Prohibitions of Incest. Hi, Eve. So, I don't know. If you guys want to yap on something, yap here. Yes, all the friends are here. Yap here because it gives me something to make me feel like I'm less alone while I'm reading this really academically dense text. It's not even like that dense. I mean, I guess it's dense if you haven't read most like classical philosophy slash continental philosophy, but like it's and we're just starting out with this. So well, I think he's starting out with stuff because it gets even more abstract as we go down. The yappers, yeah, yap in here. It doesn't even need to be related. You're speaking Japanese? Go off. Yep, I am reading Fanged Noumena. But honestly, I kind of just really want to see Stop's take on this. Your internet just cut out on your PC? Ooh, I'm sorry. From Fight Club edits. No, don't get that from there. That's where you get really badly understood Stoic philosophy. And that's like. Because Stoic philosophy can, like, occasionally be interesting, but it's really just, in my opinion, like, um, Epicureanism with extra steps, like genuinely. Why Nick Burt Land? Because Nick Burt Land is the premise of the entire studio, except not really. He's the CCCRU exists more as like a hyperstition of the CCRU, but we're reading him because uh, another friend is reading, who I can shout out in this chat actually. Lisa from Hijinks is reading the original CCCRU, or sorry, CCRU texts, which is actually pronounced the CC crew, if you would believe that. But Freud when? Is that Stop? Stop? Is that my favorite? Oh, I won't say she's my favorite, but she's high up there. Um, 24 hours at Walmart gone wrong, 4 a.m. Yep. 24-hour challenge now. Let's not do 24 hours, mostly because I don't think my throat can take that. But this one with the scary number sigil. Yep, that one. Stop it, chat. Oh my god, hi, Stop. Stop is really who I want I want a reaction from Stop, but also if everyone could just yap in chat here, it makes me feel a lot less um alone and scared reading this text. But yeah, shall I continue? Oh, I think with that I'll continue. And everyone just keep yapping in here. I miss you guys. I don't want to be alone. Oh my god, stop. Yep. The paradox of the Enlightenment, then, is an attempt to fix a stable relation with what is radically other, since insofar as the other is rigidly positioned within a relation, it is no longer fully other. Before encountering the otherness, we already know what its relation to us will be. We've obliterated it in advance. And this brutal denial, the effective implication of the thought of the priori, since if our certainties come to us without reference to otherness, we have we have always already torn out the tongue of alterity before entering into relation with it. This aggressive logical absurdity, parentheses, the absurdity of logic itself, end parentheses, reaches its zenith in the philosophy of Kant, whose basic problem was to find an account for the possibility of what he termed a synthetic priori of knowledge, which is knowledge that is both given in advance by ourselves and yet adds to what we know. As we have seen, this problem is the same as that of accounting for the possibility of modernity or enlightenment, which is to say, of the inhibited encounter with alterity. Modern philosophy between René Descartes, 1596, through. Sorry, let me fix the page that we're on. Modern philosophy between René Descartes, 1596 through 1650, and Immanuel Kant, 1724 through 1804, is usually retrospectively understood in terms of the two basic tendencies, which we refer to as empiricism and rationalism. No philosopher was as perfect and consistent exemplar of either of these tendencies, but the exponents of each tended to become increasingly radical in one direction or the other. By the time Kant wrote his first great critique, the Critique of Pure Reason, he was able to take the writings of David Hume, 1711 to 76, as definitive for empirical thought, and those of Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, 1646 through 1716, as definitive for rationalism. He took the basic argument of the empiricist to be that knowledge is synthetic and posteriori, meaning that is to take the form of an addition to which it is inherent to reason, and thus follows from experience, parentheses, an encounter with what is outside ourselves, end parentheses. In contrast to this, he saw the rationalists to be arguing that knowledge is characteristically analytic and priori, meaning that it is derived from what is already inherent to reason, and thus anticipates experience by constructing systems of logical deduction from basic axioms. Knowledge is analytic or synthetic, depending on whether its source intrinsic or extrinsic to the faculty of reason, and a priori or posteriori, depending on whether it precedes or succeeds the contrast with sensation, or with what is outside of reason. It is with these pairs of concepts, the analytic / synthetic couple, and the a priori, a posteriori couple, that Kant determines the structure of his own thinking in relation to that of his recent predecessors. Kant thought that both empiricist and rationalist philosophers had accepted the simple alignment of synthetic with the posteriori and of the analytic with the a priori. This is to say, the relation between these couples had seemed to be itself analytic, so that to speak of analytic a priori judgments would add nothing to the concept of the analytic, or in other words, an analysis of the concept of analytic would yield a concept of the a priori as already implicit within it. What's going on in chat? Ooh. Hi, alternative. What's going on here? Chat's blowing up. Hi, hi. One side audio. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Oh no, don't start the real Gukanaru with giants in Afghanistan. Oh no. I'm on this correct page here, right? Yes, no, maybe so. I can't see. Yes, maybe. I don't know. Got class soon, so you gotta go, but hope I do awesome. Thank you, Eve. I love you. Thank you. Okay, sorry. I am looking at what page I'm on here, just to make sure that I'm on the correct page. Yep. So, let's bring this down a little bit, because I'm at eye level here, question mark. Yeah, keep yapping in chat. Keep yapping, keep yapping, keep yapping. Don't pay attention to me. Where did I This assumption was not accepted by Kant, who realigned the two pairs of concepts in a perpendicular fashion to form a grid, thus yielding four permutations. He granted the elimination of any analytic a posteriori knowledge, but clung doggedly to the possibility of knowledge that would be both synthetic and a priori. This new concept of knowledge was relevant to an object that had not previously been formulated, the conditions of experience. Kant described his Copernican, I know how to say this word. I do. I swear, I'm just reading it on a page. Mog the camera. Hi. Just mogging casually the camera here as I read this extremely dense text. Kant described his Copernican revolution in philosophy as a shift from the question to what must the mind be like in order to know, to the question what must objects be like in order to be known. The answers to this latter question would provide. You can't clip on here, can you? Can you? Would provide a. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, I was on the wrong page. Whoops, sorry. Um. Oh, now we're getting. Okay, pages are getting a little weird. Would provide a body of synthetic a priori knowledge telling us about experience without being derived from experience. It would justify the emergence of knowledge that was both new and timelessly certain, grounding the Enlightenment culture of a civilization confronting an ambiguous dependence upon novelty. Because a developed knowledge of conditions of experience presupposes a relation to the outside, it is synthetic and not analytic. But because it concerns the pure form of the relation as such, and not the sensory material involved in the relation as a priori, and not a posteriori, it is solemnly concerned with the forms of appearance, or the unchanging manner in which things must be, if they are to be for us. Kant calls this pure form of synthesis transcendental, and opposes it to the inconstant content of synthesis, with which the empiricists had been concerned, and with which he calls empirical. Kant's object, very weirdly got quotations there. Kant's object is thus the universal form of the relation to alterity, that which must of necessity be the same in the other in order for it to appear to us. I'm losing my accent. Okay, time to switch. This universal form that which is necessary for anything to be on offer for experience. It is the exchange value that first allows a thing to be marketed to the enlightened mind. Or sorry, to the Enlightenment mind. Between medieval scholasticism and Kant, Western reason moves from a for some reason this is easier to read in a British accent, if you can believe that. German accent? Can I do a German accent? I don't believe I can do one in a way that isn't horribly offensive. Australian. Ooh. We have also Southern accent as a means that we can go by. But can you guys still reply to the question? Is that showing up in chat? Ja, du kannst. I can't. I feel like that would be we had too many Germans in chat before, sorry, not in chat, in the server. So if I do that, they're gonna get mad. It is in chat, okay. Finnish, it's not real. I can't do a Finnish accent, Lemon, and you know that. Cancelled in Germany. I think I'm okay with that actually. Accent help finds the point. Find point de capitulation. Southern accent reading philosophy is funny. It would be. I just like it actually kind of if you look at the text, reading this in an American accent makes you fumble over your words incessantly, and it's really annoying. And I don't know how to describe this phenomenon. Phenomenon. But like trying to read it in an American English accent is horrible actually. Like you just keep tripping over every single syllable. So for some reason when you're reading it in a British accent it comes out a lot more smooth, and maybe it's the fact that I'm like forcing myself to read it slower and a little bit more of like a whatever cadence. I feel like I'm gonna turn the light down a little bit lower. Ooh. No, higher. Scottish accent? I can't do. I can do a Scottish accent, but I don't know if I can do it with this text. We'll read something a little bit lighter that I can do more accents with, but I think we can try a southern accent for a little bit, but I think it's gonna do the same thing. Although, read it like Yoda. No. That's a veto. Where have we left off? This universal form in which it in which necessary for anything to be on offer for experience is the exchange value that first allows a thing to be marketed to the enlightenment mind. It's like, what is that, Tennessee? I don't know. Scouse accent? Yar, I can speak in a Scottish accent, but land hard coded books readability so that only Brits can understand is so true. You can read it in your head, but like it's just not like the I can do like maybe a transatlantic accent, but I don't even think that would accurately have the same intonation. I don't know. Okay, let's go. This universal form that which is necessary for anything to be on offer for experience, it is the exchange value that first allows a thing to be marketed to the enlightenment mind. Between medieval scholasticism and Kant Western reason moves from a parochial economy to which a system in which abandoning the project, if I will, if I shall, project, of oppressing the traffic with austerity, one resolves instead to control the system of trade. With the overthrow of the Ancien Régime, it became impossible to simply exclude novelty. It could only be appropriated, stamped from a constant form, and integrated into an immutable formal system. In the elementary structures of kinship, Claude Levi Strauss notes the frequent. Shall I be that posh with my language? Frequent distinction made by various societies between normal and rich food. Normal food is consumed by its producers and as a means to their subsistence, whilst rich food is given to another to consume and received from another. It is not primarily based upon a differentiation between social classes within a system of production, but rather upon differentiation between tribes or separate systems of production. The difference between rich food and normal food maps onto the difference between filiation, parentheses, relation by blood, and parentheses, and alliance, parentheses, relation by marriage, and parentheses. This is because the rich food occupies the position of women within marriage system regulated by a patrilineal exogamy, with its producer renouncing it for himself and thus echoing the prohibition of incest. What is of particular philosophical... Oh, let me make sure I'm on the correct page. Yes, I'm on the correct page. Okay. What is particular of philosophical incest, however, is that it also marks a distinction between the rational, parentheses, analytic, and parentheses, and the empirical, parentheses, synthetic, and parentheses, and thus defines a terrain upon which we can sketch an economy of knowledge. Rich food comes from the outside of the system, and the contortions undergone by structural anthropology in its project to recapture it within an expanded system of relations replay Kant's efforts to reduce synthesis to an expanded horizon of unchanging forms. If rich food is the primordial element of trade, its metamorphosis into the modern commodity can be seen as a suppression of radical synthesis, the problematic process which provides enlightenment reason with its object of thought. Boop. I think I skipped too far ahead. Freud influence plus shock value. So true. Sounds like Land does not have a point and is just trying to stream of conscious and understanding of the basic context of Kant. No, he actually, I will say he's well read in Kant. I think he did his thesis on Kant. I could be wrong. Please feel free to fact check me on that one, someone in chat. But he did his thesis at I believe Warwick or Essex to for no, I think it was Bataille. But yeah, he is extremely well read on the matter. So I think this is more so for the like uninitiated to kind of get a better grasp of what he's trying to articulate here. Despite we'll go into my personal opinions on the matter after. I will not opine whilst reading another's work. There's no point here. We're not even like close to halfway through the book. I don't think we're supposed to get to a point yet. Alrighty. Where did we stop? If rich food is the primordial element of trade, its metaphysical metamorphosis into the modern commodity can be seen as its suppression of radical synthesis, the problematic process which provides enlightenment reason with its object of thought. The cultural inhibition of synthesis takes a form that Levi Strauss calls dual organization. A dual organization arises when two groups form a closed system of reciprocal exchange, in which each consumes the rich food and marries the woman of the other. Such organizations reproduce themselves culturally through shared myths articulated around basic dualities: day-night, sun-moon, upriver, downriver, etc. The function of these myths is to capture alterity within a system of rules, to provide it with an identity, and to exclude the possibility of the radically different. It should not surprise us, therefore, that Kant inherited a philosophical tradition whose decisive concepts were organized into basic couples: spirit matter, form content, abstract concrete, universal particular, etc. He delineates some basic structure of this tradition in the section of the Critique of Pure Reason, called the Transcendental Dialectic. In this section, he interprets this dichotomous heritage as a problem, parentheses, to which Kant gives the name antinomy, English accent, antinomy. There we go. Looking at chat and then I got distracted. To which Kant gives the name antinomy, and initiates a new phase of Western philosophy, now characterized as the critique of metaphysics. Are we on the correct page? Yes, no. Oh, yes, no. Yes. Antinomy. Kant argues that the tendency of previous metaphysics to conceive coherent but unpersuasive and antagonistic intellectual systems resulted from the application of pure, transcendental concepts to arguments concerning the nature of things in themselves, noumena. No, we're getting our first definition. Yay. Alimony? Yep, that's correct, Lemon. Concerning the nature of things in themselves, noumena. The critical philosophy therefore restricts the jurisdiction of all concepts to the realm of possible appearance, intuition, suggesting, parentheses, as we have seen, and parentheses, that the a priori forms of knowledge have no purchase on any reality transcending of the phenomenon. The oppositional terms are no longer accepted as descriptions of capturing reality, but are interpreted as pure forms of reason that can only be meaningfully deployed theoretically when applied to the objects of possible appearance, which fall between the legislative domain of the faculty, which Kant calls the understanding, Verstand. Don't ask me to pronounce that correctly. Since reality is itself a transcendental concept, Kant's usage of a distinction between appearance and reality restrict the deployment of pure concepts already suggests the crucial difficulty with his project. Since every attempt to formulate a relation or distinction between phenomenal and nominal realms, parentheses, the world as it appears or to us or is understood, and the world as it is in itself, and parentheses, must itself relapse into the pre-critical and illegitimate deployment of conceptual thought. One crucial symptom of this is that the structure of Kantian critique itself perpetuates the oppositional form of metaphysical thought, since its resolution of the the legislative branch Antinomies depends upon the mobilization of further dichotomies, in particular those of transcendental, empirical, phenomenon, noumenon, concept, intuition, and analysis, synthesis. The fact does the British accent come from the face or does the face come from the accent? I'm not sure. Am I making a face as I'm doing this? That would check out actually. Oh, there we go. Okay, so you guys can see it here where I'm at. Um Nom nom. Nom nom nom. I'm sorry, give me a second to drink some tea because oh my god, this is a mouthful. Scotland is basically Ireland but without the swag. I think the Irish would disagree. Am I doing a face with the accent? Huh. The more you know. I don't know. I'm not trying to. It's more of just like it's coming about. Performing the British phenotype. Any Brits in the chat, I hope you're offended. It does actually make it a lot easier, and I guess it's because it slows me down. Oi, bruv! Oi, bruv! Who you talking to? I can't. Everything comes out posh when I speak in a British accent. It's really bad. Oi, bruv! Hello! Sp- I don't. Can I? I'll eventually. I'll have a moment in time in which I work on my accents. But for now, I don't know. I can continue on the English, or sorry, the American English accent, but it really does come out quite choppy. In other words, Kant still wants to say something about radical alterity, even if it is only that that it has no relevance to us. Yet he has deprived himself of the right to all speculation about the nature of what is beyond appearance. The vocabulary that would describe the other of metaphysics is itself inscribed within metaphysics, since the inside and the outside are both conceptually determined from the inside, within a binary myth or cultural symptom of dual organization. It is thus the inhibition of synthesis, the delimitation of alterity in advance, that sets up the modern form of the ontological question. How do we know that matter exists? That is the very existence of materiality, and its materiality is well, that very existence of materiality is problematic for Enlightenment thought. I can read a sentence, I swear. As soon as I switch into the American accent, it just stops. What's going on? Thus, the inhibition of synthesis, the delimitation of alterity in advance, that sets up the modern form of the ontological question: how do we know that matter exists? That the very existence of materiality is problematic for Enlightenment thought is symptomatic of the colonial trading systems that correspond to it. Alterity cannot be registered unless it can be inscribed within the system, according to the interconnected axes of exchange value (parentheses, price and parentheses) and the patronymic, or, in other words, as a commodity with an owner. Got to go back to the British accent, it seems. I'm gonna try a little bit harder with the English accent and see how far we get. What falls outside this recognized form is everything that resists commodification, the primordial independence that antedates the Constitution and the destituted proletarian. As I have suggested, God, yeah, maybe it's the fact that he uses these words that are very particularly British. Incotiate. As I have suggested, this incotiate mass Yeah, I think it's the fact that he uses like heavy Brit coded language. Let's go. Are we on the correct page? Yeah, no, we're still on the correct page, it seems. Um, as I have suggested, this incociate mass more or less because how do you say incociate in like an American accent? No one says that. Incociate. As I have suggested, this incociate mass or more of more or less explicit resistance to capital is isolated outside of the metropolis by a combination of automatic economic processes, parentheses, the concentration of poverty, end parentheses, and the restrictive kinship practices. The modern capital has therefore brought about a fundamental dislocation between filiation and alliance by simultaneously deregulating alliance and abstracting it from all kinship implications. The primordial anthropological bond between marriage and trade is dissolved in order that capital can be ethically and geographically quarantined in its consequence from itself. The question of racism, which arises under patriarchal capital as the default of global trade in women, parentheses, a parochialism, a parochialism in the system of misogynistic violence, the non-emergence of the transcultural exogamy, end parentheses. Cajun accent? No, I can't. Revolutionary War never ended. No, it didn't. Brits are still causing violence with this book, man. Brits are still causing violence with modern philosophy and just talking in a way that is like. So does he think that the prohibition of incest is a negative side effect of the Enlightenment thought, or what? We're getting there. Stop. Don't try to skip ahead. Don't try to skip ahead. What are you doing? All right, restarting that sentence. The question of racism, which arises under patriarchal capital, is the default of a global trade in women, parentheses, a, parochia, a parochialism, a parochialism in the system is in the system of misogynistic violence, the non-emergence of a transcultural exogamy, end parentheses, is thus more complex than it might seem, and is bound in profound but often paradoxical ways to the functioning of patriarchy and capital. Systemic racism is a sign that class positions in the general parentheses transnational economy, end parentheses economy, are being distributed on racial bias, which implies an effective, if not judicial, apartheid. I'm so glad the French got rid of that nonsense. Yeah. If a person doesn't make their point clear, it is an evasion on their part of the criticism being slash being wrong of the fact they don't know what they're on about. See, look, huh? You and I have the same Chomskyan belief. Stop. Don't worry. It's not anti-intellectualism here, I will say. I think he's actually trying to like have this all lead into a point because it means all of these original points if you're doing so in the academic sense. But I agree with you. He is literally Dark Enlightenment, though. I'm pretty sure he is like the fundamental. I would go. You are a Chomskyan. You are wholeheartedly a Chomskyan. Chomskyan is just like linguistics. Be more articulate with your words. That's why you hate Zizek. That's why you hate Lacan. That's why you hate the losing Guittari. Well, I think you're okay with them, but yeah. There, I have that Substack article up. Ooh, someone has said something on Twitch. Hey, Jambo, welcome. Sorry, we have chat on both Twitch and we have chat on YouTube that we're talking. Nar says stop. Listen, stop. You're Chomsky. You've seen the Substack article. You're okay with Zizek? I remember you being so vehemently against Zizek prior. The thing is that like I'm of the same mind that I dislike Zizek in the same way that I dislike Hegel, which is just like get to your point efficiently. Stop kind of like doing these weird little loops when you can just be articulate, which is the Chomskyan view. It's just like, oh, you're just essentially like creating marketing for yourself. Manifest ideas into other minds. Dark Enlightenment. That's some PF Young talking point. So PF Young hits Dark Enlightenment. Dark Enlightenment predates him by a landslide, actually. Um, I think he talks about like dark woke at this point, or like dark gothic woke. I think is what Brogan's using now, but considering that I'm not sure how much any of them have actually read of like Dark Enlightenment works as it relates to like Moldbug or Land, uh, we can take it with a grain of salt. I think anyone who gets really deep into the philosophy itself, which is my thing, is I don't know. I think you've been interacting with it's the evil woke. I don't think it's the woke anymore. I think it's the anti woke. I think that's the premise of the Dark Enlightenment is anti woke. That's why like you see Nick Land posting in 2014 on alt right. Brandon Knight's Rise. Oh God, you love Joe Biden. Stop! I love you. Oh my God. Chronically online philosophers. Yes, quite literally. Super woke? No, no. Dark Enlightenment is anti woke. Anti woke is super woke? Is that what it is? I didn't know that we like went all the way back around into it being like super woke. Then what's hyper woke? Because the thing is that I'll identify as alt woke. Have you guys seen that manifesto before? Someone pull up the alt woke manifesto. It does not circle. No, I didn't think it circled. It would be pretty crazy if it did. How awake? Never horseshoe. I'm not in a place where I can like say I can renounce horseshoes, unfortunately. But okay. How are we doing on Okay. Hi Twitch viewers. I know that you're there. I can see you guys, but I'm sorry for not interacting with you much. I know that you exist. It's just YouTube chat seems to be popping off. Give me some hearts, guys, or something. The universe is asymmetric. Define that. Do not manifest the evil dream SMP reality. We actually met someone from the Dream SMP server quite recently, actually. So that's kind of hilarious that you bring that up now. Thank you, Worm, for saying stuff on Twitch chat. That's fun. We had a lot of, well, stop. Define asymmetric, the universe being asymmetric, because I fundamentally don't think that that is a thing that we can assign symmetry to. At least not in this particular moment. Um, are they woke? Evil lore of Tropper. You can't use hard R, Lemon. Online philosophies are like are like trading cards nowadays. Maybe. I don't know. People like to signal that they read philosophy, but it's not really. It's not accurate. Is Dream woke? I don't know. I guess so. I think the entire like from what I understand, the Dream sort of like side of fandom, whatever, it tends to be woke because I think they're more so like very lefty, like pretty young audience that watches Dream. Was it the canceled one? Yes. He was very nice, and I looked at the cancellation and I found it really not something that I've ever seen anyone canceled over before, and I don't think I agree with the premise, but maybe I'm missing information. It's not literally asymmetric, but the point is that the concepts are almost never reversible, irreversible, whatever. Minecraft YouTubers. Don't read philosophy, I just watch TikTok Sigma edits like a true intellectual. People act as though they are because it applies to common sense. Justin, slash not, slash the real Gokinaru. I'm gonna tell you straight up that don't use random words that are like pop psychology when everyone is just saying that they're like autistic or ADHD or whatever. It's not a justification. It's just a classification for what someone is working with you on in therapy. But don't just like drop that randomly. I have a pet peeve with that. Surely garnering an audience of young woke teens will never backfire. Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. Are things in a spiral or a circle? That's a good question, Lemon. I think they're both. Truly. They're in a square? Maybe. But asymmetric, but the point is that concepts are almost never reversible, inversible, whatever, because it applies to common sense. The universe is not asymmetric. Okay, I see. If that's the reason that you're saying like it's asymmetric, then I guess I just wouldn't consider like symmetry slash asymmetry to whether or not a concept can be reversed or irreversed or like, flipped upon an axis. You can only ever apply a contraposition to a logical statement and expect it to work. Well, yeah, of course. And if we're qualifying the universe as just like anything in the state of existence, whether or not it's like no, whether or not we attribute like objective or subjective to it, um, get it twisted. Thought is delusion. Get it twisted. Why is everyone saying get it twisted now? What's up with that? I saw Icy do that earlier today. Icy was like, get so twisted when I said that remark to deep left analysis. Twisted. Yeah, no, I'm still that was a fire Substack note. I've got to admit. I'm patting myself on the back for that one. The Twister. Chat, what's going on? Twisted stuck. Am I don't tell me that I'm twisted. I'm not twisted. I'm just a regular guy. Oh, Eve liked my tweet. Oh, Eve. Oh, I miss her already. Trop, do you recommend posting on Substack? Yes, but I recommend more so that you follow my Substack. I don't know. Uh, you're a mod. You should be showing me or something. That's how that works, right? Follow my Substack because I actually post stuff there that I do quite like. Yes. Follow my Substack. It's tropicalstuck. I should probably have that somewhere on the screen. Yes. Well, it's literally just I can look this up. Yup. There we go. Sorry that I'm hurting everyone's eyes. Pen. And I think that worked. Did it? Yeah. Follow my Substack because I actually do stuff there. The internet is evil and putting a child on it is detrimental to the development. So I'm gonna talk about these sort of abstract concepts, I think that the internet is neutral, which means it contains evil. It also contains good. Putting a putting a child, it doesn't necessitate that it is detrimental to that child's growth. It can be, but saying so with such certainty, I think, defeats the purpose of Did you just post a melon? Real ones will understand. Are you referring to when we did the tier list? What are you guys hiding? I'm looking at the Discord now. What are you guys hiding? Oh, okay. Here. Lobe cord. Eh. We're deeply loping. No, I was loped. I was! I was! I was tropilope. Here's the alt woke manifesto. It was truly a thing to contend with. Ow. But, okay, shall we keep reading? For any more of the audience decides that they're no longer, this isn't what they came for. Hmm. You have to read? I mean, you can keep yapping here. I think I prefer when you guys are yapping and I can look up a chat and see, like, okay, I'm not here by myself. So keep yapping amongst yourselves. I do appreciate it. And I'll keep reading. Oh no, you guys are hearing me outside. Um, Kant was able to remain bourgeois without overtly promoting racism only because he also remained an idealist, or in other words, a Christian, parentheses, cunning Christian, as Nietzsche calls him, and identified universality with ideality rather than with power. Kant's economy of the concept, which is the assimilation of experience into a system of exchange values, is irreversible in principle, and thus does not recognize a problem of rebellion. It is only with the implicit recognition of the need for systemic evacuation of rebellion from the metropolis by means of a geographically distorted labor market that racism arises in its contemporary form, which is ultimately that of a restricted franchise, parentheses, on a national basis, end parentheses, over the political management of the global means of production. It is no longer a question of taxation without representation. American concept, let's go! Um, Taxation without representation, parentheses, except by means of interest payments, end parentheses, but rather a metropolitan capital seeking to abstract itself from all political reference, becoming offshore, although not to the extent that it loses its geopolitical conditions of existence, parentheses, the US war machine, end parentheses. The increasingly rigorous differentiation of marriage from trade, or politics from economics, finds its ultimate conceptual definition in the thought of a moral agency which is utterly impervious to learning, communication, or exchange. What is going on? Ooh, gotta respond to this really quick. Hold on. Uh, okay. One sec. Keep yapping, guys. I will be right back. What is going on here? Does chat went German? What's going on? Oh god, what did I miss? Yee. I'm sorry, guys. Wait, let me message. Bleh. You didn't see that. Hello, hello, I'm sorry. I'm back. Chat is German? I know, chat's German now. What the hell? What happened? Welcome in. Thank you for having me back. Wow, my tea is cold. It's cold in here, but I actually came back just to say bye because I gotta go. And I didn't expect this to go this long. Okay. I will probably do this again sometime this week. I have a thing tomorrow, and then I have a thing on Thursday, or two things on Thursday. So I can probably do Wednesday if that works for everyone, and I can do it earlier probably since I now know how to set this up a lot quicker. Chat ist Deutsch. Is it Deutsch or Deutsch? I don't know. But yeah, what do we think? Wait, where did. Yes? Okay. I can do. Let's do Wednesday and let's aim for. I said 7 last time. I don't know. I don't trust myself. I'm gonna say. Do itch? What is itch? Wednesday works. Let's say, depending on how much work I have, it'll start at either 5 or 7, and I will update beforehand. And then we can keep going on our little Landian stint. I keep looking at Twitch chat. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So either let's say let's say 7 because people get out of work at 5, right? You're going to Austin this week anyway? Why are you going to Austin? Oh wait, I can't stay on terribly long. But oh man, thank God it is so much warmer in here. Helping a friend move? Oh, I need to move actually. That's a huge thing. But yeah, okay. I'm sorry I completely abandoned chat. That was not intentional. But hope we can redo this, let's say Wednesday, and I'll post in chat and I'll post on uh mm, I'll post on Twitch, or sorry, Twitter/X. I need to ask Eve how that works actually, since Eve apparently knows how to game the system and I don't. Peace. Okay. And Twitch chat is rarely silent. So, I mean, not rarely. Twitch chat is as usual silent. So, how do you pronounce that? Tush, tush. How do you pronounce what? Ha, tr- oh yeah, I will figure out what's going on with the chush. Okay, more you know. I'll figure out how to do the mic thing. That's on my to-do list. But I can say at least I got the background working and I got the reading working, and now I know I need to do it in a British accent. So let's do Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Yes. Yes, that's my trade. That's my trade offer. Okay, awesome. Well, with that, I bid you guys good night. Thank you for everything. I'm sorry for the super long wait. I'm so sorry. And I love you guys, and good night.